Hello and welcome to the Nash Tackle Off the Hook podcast. Just to make you aware, this podcast may contain some explicit/offensive language, and if that's not your thing, you don't have to listen, but I have given you a warning. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
You don't know the half of it, but anyway. I'm skating on the thinnest ice known to man.
He said, and they put a poison in the tank that just instantly kills them. He went and we'd run out of it, so we cut their heads off with shovels.
Suddenly, bang! The whole boat exploded.
Take your sort of 8-inch long piranha and imagine that at 4, 5, maybe 6 feet.
I said, I've revived your dead fish. F off, he said. You haven't.
That was just humongous. It was... I couldn't believe what I was looking at.
I'm just battling this fish out in the pond. I know it's a black man. I'm saying I'll never be a naughty boy again.
If you catch fish and you return them to the water, then you are my brother.
Samir, welcome to the Nash podcast again, mate. How the devil are you, boy?
Oh, mate, we're just fantastic out here. Better for seeing your smiling face on your MacBook, bruv. How's things, buddy?
Mate, if I look out my office window at the moment, I was a little bit panicky about lighting and it changing, but it's just grey and raining and horrible, mate. So at the moment,
no.
weather-wise, we've definitely gone into autumn. It is wet, it is cooler, but looking at your setup, mate, it looks sunny, lush, Spanish, everything you want, mate.
We've got 28 degrees, high pressure, and not a cloud in the sky. So it's actually just dropped down from 35 degrees, which is really unusual for this time of year. And the trip that me and Claire have just been on in France, actually, was really difficult because it was pretty much 30 plus for the whole trip in October and late September, which is really unusual. But we made the best of it,
mate.
As you'll find out soon.
Yeah, I've seen a few little subtle stories you sent over my way, mate. You've done all right, as you always do. In terms of things there, mate, you, Claire, what are you up to at the moment? You going out on another trip? Is it editing? What's the crack?
It's editing at the moment, so if I seem a little bit sleepy this morning, it is because I was up till 2 o'clock in the morning, desperately trying to get a project finished, which I actually failed to do. But yeah, we're in editing mode at the moment. I've got a trip with Henry and Jacob for Continental Connections.
Oh, yeah.
Coming up. I leave next Friday, so I've got to get everything wrapped up prior for that, because we've got the launch of the bike film, which is primarily what this podcast is about. So yeah, it's all hands on deck at the moment. This is the busiest time of year for us, autumn, between the fishing, the editing, keeping our stories and our social media up to date. And yeah, just trying to get everything together to ensure that we deliver quality content and viewing for the guys watching this.
Mate, you are always busy. I don't think there's any time of the year when I message you or speak to you where you're like not absolutely frantic, mate, which is unreal. You don't fancy jacking it all in and coming back over here to the rain and cold, mate, no?
Not a chance, mate. Not a chance. Despite, I think a lot of people think my life is actually just fishing. But it's probably fishing is 30% of what I do inside the angling trade. But I wouldn't change it for the world, mate. I absolutely love it. I'm living my best life, living the dream. What more could I ask for, you know?
Mate, you've worked hard. You deserve it. You most certainly do. We're going to talk all things bike trips, mate. 2 epic films. They will be at this point, but when this has gone out, released, so people can go and see them if they haven't already, but I'm sure they've already seen it. Now, in terms of a trip, mate, like, you've done extreme, you've done jet skis on Orellana with Al, you've done, I don't know what else, even your day-to-day fishing around you is pretty extreme compared to sort of normal angling, if you like, in air quotes. That trip, the concept for that trip, talk to me about that. Where was that born from? How did the two marry up in your head?
Oh, mate, well, I've always been into my bikes, always, my whole life, you know. My dad bought me my first bike when I was actually 10 years old, which my mum very quickly made him sell after I accidentally pulled a wheelie in my dad's yard at his work and fell off. My mum wasn't impressed at all. My brother's been into motorbikes since he was in his teens as well. He's quite a bit older than me, actually. I think he's nearly 60 now. But so I've always been around bikes, you know. When I was in my early teens, I had my crossers and bits and pieces. Actually, my mum and dad didn't even know about the existence of them. We had a friend who had quite liberal parents who didn't really care. So I saved up all my money for my paper round and working in my dad's garage at the weekend. And I bought, what was it? It was a Yamaha, it was a DT125. And our mate, he had a big garage and we just stored it in there. My parents never knew. And after school at the weekend, he used to go up to my pal's house, we'd get our crosses out and we'd head off and go cause mayhem in the estate and in the woods. So bikes have been in my life literally from as long as I almost can remember, you know. As soon as I was 16, I bought a motorbike legally.
Yeah.
And I used to ride it to school every day. So
back in the day, mate.
Back in the day, mate. And it's kind of like an evolution of that. I think once you've got once you've got the bug for bikes, you know, it never really leaves you unless you have a pretty horrendous accident, which so far, fingers crossed, I've been pretty lucky to avoid. But yeah, literally, as soon as I was 16, I had my first road legal bike. Used to ride it to school and to college. When I got a bit older, later on, I ended up buying a TZR 250, doing my 33 horsepower test. After that, you have a certain amount of time before you can get a bigger bike.
Right.
I think you have to be 21. And then I just went all in, really, and bought myself a Ducati 748.
Jeez, mate. I didn't realise. I knew that, obviously, like, business formally was sort of around mechanics and all that sort of stuff, but I didn't know it was, like, you were so into bikes before that, mate. I don't know why.
Yeah, I was really into bikes, mate. I was really, really into bikes. And what sort of brought that all to an end was I went and bought myself a brand new bike, a GSXR 1000.
Right.
And it's a proper machine, like serious bit of kit. And then I spent, at the time I was quite wealthy, I can afford to do the same now. I spent $5,000 on trying to make it do 200 mile an hour. And
what the?
Yeah, I took it to, so there was a company that wasn't too far from us who used to build bikes for the British Superbike team. And I gave them a lot of money and they built my bike into some insane weapon, which actually made it almost unrideable.
Yeah.
But we used to have a gang that used to go out like a squad on a Sunday. Like about 20 of us would meet up at a petrol station at 6 a.m. in the morning and go for an absolute tear up in the countryside. Because where we live, there's a lot of gravel pits, like a bit outside of our town.
Yeah.
Towards the direction of Kent. There's like a big shingle spit out to Dungeness, and it's like 20 odd gravel pits out there, and all the roads are built quite solid because they were built to hold the weight of all the gravel lorries.
Right.
And pretty much all the roads were built for them excavations. So they're really good quality roads. We just go out there and absolutely have it every Sunday, like literally, like leaving your brain on the curb and the squad would go out and go nuts. So there was always a bit of competition within that group, like who could be the most mentalist, you know, who had the quickest bike. So yeah, I spent a lot of time and money getting my bike to go ridiculous speeds, and it actually all come to an end. I felt like it was coming to an end anyway in my own mind because I hadn't had Jamal that long. He was a young lad,
right?
And every time I come home, I just was thinking, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? And track days weren't really quite so big as they are now. And I was starting to feel scared myself, like that I was pushing the limits too far. And actually, there was a couple of close calls that really had me questioning what I was doing. But the final nail in the coffin for the bike was I took Claire out on the back one day, and I probably pulled a 100-yard wheelie at about 90 mile an hour.
Jeez, mate.
Yeah, she was not impressed. She was headbutting me from behind. I had to stop the bike. She got off. And she walked home, and she said she was going to her mum's, and I didn't believe. I thought, yeah, she'll be back. She'll be back in time for tea. No, she didn't come home for tea, and she wouldn't refuse to come home until the bike was on eBay. So
was that mate?
Yeah.
The bike or me, mate. One of those.
That was Claire every time, mate. Like, I can't survive in a domestic situation on my own without my wife. She's the backbone of our household, you know.
You made a good call, mate, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, like I said to you, it was in the back of my mind anyway. I felt like I was pushing the limit more and more every time, which is dangerous. And really, she kind of helped me along to that decision. She made it easier for me. And I did lose face in front of my pals, but it was less face if your wife's left you because of the bike.
Forget your pals, mate. They sound like absolute wrong-uns. Absolute wrong-uns.
The gang in it, the Sunday motorbike gang. Anyone who's watching this who's into their sports bikes, they all know about the 6 a.m. Sunday tear up going for a blat. So, but yeah, that was it, mate. So the bike took a back seat, and I think that was in 2000. I think that was in 2011.
Right.
So and from then I never owned another bike until now.
Mate,
So
obviously there's that passion for bikes. There's obviously a passion for you fishing. Planning it, how long did it take you to come up with the concept of taking stuff on a bike, planning a rough, I don't know how extensively you planned it, to be fair, and then actually setting off? What timescale are we talking about here? Because it is one idea, like, I have ideas all the time, but to be honest, not a lot of them would get off the ground. And I reckon if I was in your position, I'd have probably gone, oh, looks very expensive, looks really physically taxing, and I'll probably give it a miss.
Well, originally, when I first moved to Spain, the roads out here are unbelievable. The EU money has been very well spent because they've all got like a little European flag sign to say these roads are funded by the EU, and they're great motorbike roads. And from the moment we sort of like started living in this region, I thought, wow, these roads are so perfect for a motorbike. And initially, the fishing didn't come into it. I just wanted to get another bike, to enjoy the roads out here. And I actually didn't think of getting an adventure bike. But it wasn't until I just, like things pop up in your feed. Sometimes you talk about stuff, don't you? I'm talking about bikes to Claire. Suddenly I'm seeing bike stuff in my YouTube feed. You know, how the old Matrix works and all. And I just came across the whole adventure bike thing. And seeing these guys doing like round the world trips or like doing like the European trails and stuff or crossing the whole continent, and seeing how much gear they got on these adventure bikes, I thought, whoa. Hang on a minute, because I was kind of like thinking, do I really want to get another sports bike or do I want to get a sports tourer? Now I'm like coming up to my mid-40s. Maybe I don't want a really fast bike. Maybe I'm mature enough now to have something that's a bit more the bikes you used to laugh at as a kid. Like, look at that old man on his touring bike. I was thinking maybe it's that time of my life to experience that sort of thing. And then coming across the adventure bikes, I was like, whoa. Actually, these things can go off-road.
Yeah.
They can go, they're not as good as an enduro bike, but they're much better than a sports tourer. So they're kind of like this middle ground. And these guys are loading these things up with loads of kit. I thought, mate, I could load this up with fishing gear. Right? And I could get to all these places that I dream of getting, or the access was impossible because there's a gate or there's only a small track down to the venue, down to the water, and it's too far to carry all the gear, or the bank's too steep to use a power barrow. And the idea just started growing in my mind. And anyone who knows me is that I'm a little bit eccentric, I'm a little bit wild, I'm a little bit ADHD. I'm not probably quite the full ticket, if I'm totally honest. And once a seed is planted, I struggle to stop it growing without fulfilling that idea. There's people that are doers and there's people that are dreamers. I dream the dream and then I do the dream.
Yeah.
Sometimes at my expense, or my detriment. But this one, I just thought, what, I'm going to combine two things that I really love. I've always wanted to do a big motorbike touring trip, and I want to fish some really wild places where I can't get to by car. And once I realised that these two things could come together to make a really cool and unique experience, I thought, fuck me, what a film this is going to be.
Is that what you thought straight away?
Yeah, once I realised that the two things can come together, it's possible. If they can get enough kit on their bike to ride around the world, and if I just don't have half the stuff that they're taking and just replace it with fishing gear and just like really struggle with the living stuff, like I could do this. I could ride in the wild across Spain and Portugal and go fishing on a bike.
Do you know what I thought when I saw the video, right? don't get me wrong, like, this is in no way a sort of a negative dig or whatever, but I thought, here's a man who goes out and goes and catches some incredible carp in some ridiculously tested environments, and I just thought, he's got so used to that being so hardcore and doing it all the time that he's looking for the next sort of like bigger hit. And that's why he's gone to something mental, because he's basically bored of it being rock hard. I want to make it super, super rock hard. But clearly it's not. It's clearly a mix of two passions for you.
It's a mix of two passions, but I can absolutely promise you this trip was incredibly, incredibly difficult, mate. Incredibly difficult. It was way more difficult than I ever imagined, if I'm honest. And, you know, when the idea was bouncing around in my head, I thought, yeah, I'll be able to do this. But it was really, really difficult. But you were absolutely right coming back to, like, the dopamine hit, like, looking for the next level. Like, if you're playing, if you're playing Division 1 soccer and you're a football player and you get into Division 1, you're like, yeah, I'm in Division 1 or whatever it's called nowadays. You know, after a while, it becomes a bit of nothing. You want to go to the Premiership, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, like, or if you're a mountain climber, you climb a mountain and then after that, you feel like you want to climb a bigger mountain. And that's the same for me in angling, you know. The challenge is, after a while, they don't become samey, but, you know, they become the norm, don't they? You know, if you're fishing extreme, if you're making extreme films and going on extreme trips all the time, then suddenly after a while, extreme is the norm. It's not extreme anymore. You know, so you're always looking for that next level, that next hit, that next excitement. And a part of the attraction to this whole concept was trying to go fishing like I normally do, or as close to I normally do, but without my normal equipment, you know, taking it really back to basics. But thinning down that tackle to fit on the bike was undoubtedly the biggest challenge. And then trying to make it all work. Like, the places I was going to visit weren't exactly your everyday snag-free, you know, wood chip swims. They were pretty on the ends of the extreme, you know. Like, I hardly see any people on this trip. It was so wild, and the places I was going to was so out there. And making sure I had enough and the right equipment with me was really one of the biggest challenges of this whole trip, Hassan. You know, lucky for us, Nash, we are pioneers and developers, aren't we, of compact fishing tackle.
Yeah.
And it was a process of sort of going through that catalogue and trying to identify bits of kit that would work well or fit on the bike, you know. And there was a lot of measuring up, you know, a lot of trying to work out, going through the dimensions to see what I can actually physically fit on the bike. And that was also a part of the bike choosing process as well. Finding a bike that could carry the weight, that initially wasn't too heavy as well, because I'm quite short. I'm a bit like you, Mish. We're midgets, aren't we? You know,
mate, you're a lot more strong than I am, boy, mate. I'm a proper midget. I'd struggle, I reckon, massively.
Well, I used to be 5'8", but now I'm 5'7" recently when measured, and I haven't exactly got the longest legs. I've got a 30-inch inside leg, which actually makes it really difficult for me when I'm sat on a bike to touch the ground. So initially I wanted to go for a B&W because they're like the OG original adventure bikes, you know. People have been going around the world, and Hugh and McGregor and that with a long way down. You know, they're like the industry standard, like the original of this kind of like motorcycling genre. But they were all too tall. They were all too tall for me. I was like this, like leaning from one side to the other to get a foot down. And I was thinking, after we kind of made the calculations for the weight of how much weight we're going to have with all my equipment, I think there's no way I'm going to be able to pick this up if I drop it. There's no way.
What are we talking? What was the weight of your equipment and what you taken? Give me an idea of that.
Initially, it was 100 kg.
Right.
100 kilos.
How does that break down then?
How does that break down? 10 leads for the whole trip, not dropping
10
any.
leads?
Yeah, 10 leads for the whole trip. So when I was casting, I just went for a 3-ounce pair, flat pair.
Yeah.
And I'd use that in a helicopter setup so that if it was fishing over silt, I could move the beads back, you know, because not everywhere I was able to use a boat. Then I also had 6-ounce inlines, which I didn't drop off either. which I used for deploying either fishing sections that had flow or dropping from the boat.
Yeah.
So on my return, I didn't move the leads. The lead sacrifice was one of the biggest things, actually. When we initially packed the bike, I was like, yeah, it all fits. Like, we had a few goes, a few different configurations of where we wanted to put everything.
Yeah.
You know, and I originally packed the bike, I thought, yeah, we've done it, it's all on there. And then I sat on it, I was like, oh no. Like,
What, unbalanced or something?
No, I tried to pack it balanced, so
Yeah.
I tried to keep the weight equal as we was building up, but it was just so heavy, mate. I was like, geez, if I leaned it over, I almost felt like I couldn't pull it back up.
Jeez.
So then we had to get really, really, really drastic with the weight-saving stuffs, like clothes, gone, just literally 3 T-shirts, 2 hoodies, a waterproof, 2 pairs of shorts, and a pair of joggers. The leads, I think the leads went from 20 leads down to 10. Went through my tackle box, just thinned as much stuff out as I could. Cool. What else?
Bait.
Food was the biggest.
Food and bait are the 2 ones that I think straight away. Water, food and bait, if I'm going, they're the ones that work.
So the biggest saving in weight, the water was never going to happen. It was never, ever, ever going to happen. There was absolutely no chance. 3.5 weeks fishing, 3.5 weeks water. There was no chance whatsoever. So I started looking into like these survival water filters, and I came across a thing called a life straw, which actually the UN deployed to like crisis zones, or when there's been a big crisis, and it's like a 2.5 or 5 litre bag, and you fill it up with pretty much any water, and it runs through this filter, and it's drinkable at the end. It doesn't always taste that great, to be honest, but it's drinkable, safe. It's drinkable, safe water. So that was one of the biggest weight savings. Also, we jogged on cookers and gas, mostly for the weight and for the space and for the safety aspect. If I had an accident and perforated some sort of gas can and it all blew up.
Oh, geez, yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, it'd be the end of the carp life, at the end of Samir. Jamal's going to be an orphan. Claire's going to be a widow. So yeah, it wasn't really the one. So I went for like one of these small BioLite wood burning stoves.
Yes.
Which on the face of it, I thought, yeah, that'd be great. It was actually really quite difficult to use because you just end up smelling like a bonfire every day, getting it going. And when it rained, it means like you had only damp wood. But I bought like a little 200-gram packet of pellets for in case it rained, which was like a safety or reserve, which I did have to use on one occasion. But yeah, that saved a lot of weight. No bed, hammock, and a blow-up mattress. No chair. Just used like a fabric fold-out camping chair that had no metal in it at all. It was just basically like... We used to do them at Nash, actually, a long time ago. There's a scope chair, just basically 2 bits of fabric that open out like that, with a bit of string that attaches in between. Saved a lot of weight with that. Obviously, the rods, going down to the 6-foot rods, using small bank sticks, the small scope 2-piece telescopic net was an absolute game changer. Small reels, used the 6,000 LRs, which were absolutely mustard for a budget reel. Come on, mate.
Yeah, that's all you need.
Things in the film, you'll see there, I'm like netting a fish and just launching the rod in the water with a reel on, like no care for them. Like one place the water level rose quickly, all the rods are underwater. I'm putting them down in the sand, they're getting dumped on the rocks. Because I know it sounds really quite bad and some people might cringe, but like for me in my angling, my priority is the angling.
Yeah, it's not the kit.
And I've always been like it, mate. Even when I paid for my own gear, like my local tackle shop used to call me the Destroyer because I'd just be bringing stuff back broken. Go, oh, can you do a warranty claim for that for me, please? But I used to spend so much money in a tackle shop. He'd always Al's your pal from AR Tackle in Hastings. Big shout out. Yeah, he was always quite kind enough to try and work out some sort of warranty claim for me. But yeah, I've always been like it. Priority's angling. But yeah, all the rods, yeah, they were undergunned at times. I lost a few big uns because I didn't have enough backbone. But come on, man, like, given the circumstances, the kit performed really well. And having all the fishing tackle in miniature enabled it all to fit on the bike. So
bait, mate. Talk to me about bait. Like the quantity, the choices. You talked about 3 weeks worth of travel and fishing within that. You talked about, we're obviously going to talk about the variety of different venues, but mainly following the course of that river and then ducking off here and there. How do you even limit with regards to that? You're not going to know what the fishing's like. What did you end up taking?
what did I take with me? So initially I took 2 jars of tiger nut slush, the big ones, and 2 jars of tiger nuts. And that was, and a pack of citrus, which I only used once because there's so much crayfish in the river system and all the lakes surrounding. So it made the bait selection relatively easy, to be honest. The fact that I couldn't use boilies, boilies are not really exactly light. The density of the bait, the more items, you think of one tiger nut, it's one item, is one food item. One boilie is much bigger than that one tiger nut. So I was able to fish quite sparingly with bait. And to be honest, I actually really think it made much of a difference not putting in loads of bait. I really honestly don't. Like, I feel like being on the fish and then just deploying enough bait to get them bites is actually probably quite a good tactic. And to be honest, it was something I think I spoke about it in the previous podcast about using minimal bait, often produces bigger carp, I think when you put a lot of bait in, you attract a lot of small fish. If you're in a fishery that's, a wild river or wild lake, public venue, there's not much control on the stock. Like if you go to a pay lake or something, they thin all the small ones out, then they make sure it's only big ones in there for you. So where walloping a load of bait could be beneficial. But I think when you're fishing public venues with mixed stock, you can, by putting a lot of bait in, you can often attract a lot of the smaller fish. So I was quite careful with how I used my bait. I just fished a stick of PVA with some crushed tigers and maybe like 5 or 6 tiger nuts in it. And then I'd throw like maybe between 5 and 10 tiger nuts around the hook and a handful of tiger nut slush. And that was kind of like my baiting strategy for everywhere.
Mate, it's so interesting. Like, as I think about it, and it's clearly like a UK mentality, fishing sort of, as you say, like pay lakes and that type of fishery. Whereas out there with those, not expanses of water, I mean, it's a long river system. They're not in front of you. You might not necessarily contextualise how big it is, but in terms of its course, it's massive. I think the more bait, the more chance they are that they're going to find it. But that way of fishing for you, even on the likes of Dare, as you talked about our Public Lakes podcast we did before, that's very much a feature for you whereby being on them is the key, and obviously the accessibility with having the bikes, the smaller rods, everything stripped down really sort of worked in your favour with regards to that to some extent. But then that small little tiny trap, as you're saying there, is the way that you would have fished it regardless if you had loads of bait in the van or not.
It's a big carp technique, minimal bait, and it worked really well with what I was doing, I did have to get a restock, so when Claire come out to photograph that 62-pounder for us, obviously I was like, bring bait, bring bait. So I was quite lucky there. It was quite a hard call, that one, to be honest, getting Claire to come out all the way down to photograph that fish, as I felt like, not that I was cheating, but at the end of the day, the carp safety was the most important. And at the same time, I was lucky enough to get a kebab and some bait. So it was...
So, food, mate. Like, obviously, a reoccurring theme, apart from you falling off your bike every 2 minutes, which looked granically hard work, was sort of the sort of perils of food and the physical sort of toil of access, especially to that river section initially when you start. All that factored in, mate. How food-wise, you took obviously sort of, I don't know what they were, like survival ration packs or whatever you call them.
Horrendous is what it was. The food was the worst experience, mate. But again, weight, it had to be freeze-dried food, powdered food, survival food. There wasn't really, it couldn't even be the ones that are slightly moist because of the weight. Everything had to be powdered food, which is, I'm sure, is terribly unhealthy for you. I came home, I think I was like 5 kilos lighter at the end of that trip. Claire just didn't stop feeding me for 2 weeks. So all the gains went straight out the window. But the food was possibly like one of the most difficult parts of it for me. I felt like I had to force myself to eat. Like literally, oh my God, it's so bad. What can I do to make it better? I ended up picking up a couple of tins of tuna in the end, like a little pack of like tiny little tins of tuna like that. You get like 4 in a pack or 6 in a pack in Spain. So I was like, oh, sweet, I could just put one of these tiny little micro tins of tuna in. But that was all right for like maybe like 3 or 4 days. And then that wore off and was boring as well. It was just so bad. When Claire bought that kebab for me, it was like, I don't know, it was the most amazing experience of my life almost. You know?
Emotional. Talk to me about, like, obviously your choice, your route, where you fished. They're they're incredible venues. Like, they look beautiful. You obviously went out and away from any form of real built-up areas. You were on pretty much off-grid. It looked like some sort of crazy desert type thing with a mega bit of river down it and a few mega sort of not gravel pits, a few mega lakes as well. But the river itself, which is what interests me, the history behind that, the history behind the carp in there. Like, how do you... And you had a fairly good gauge, because I remember you saying that there's a few big uns in there. There's obviously some sort of network where you get information around potential of what's in there. Where's all that from?
So the first sort of venues that we fished, I did have information on them. Obviously, I live here. This is my home. You know, I've got a great network of friends around. You know, I speak with local people. Local people speak with me. And I knew there were some good uns in some of these stretches. But mostly throughout, I think with the exception of one stretch, I think everywhere on this trip was new to me. Like the first place where I got to that was on fire. I really wanted to fish that stretch for such a long time, Hassan. There's like a little bit that you have to go through that you'd have to walk maybe like 150 metres with your gear through horrible terrain. That I'd really always wanted to go and fish that spot. And I thought this would be perfect for the bike, you know, for the bike film. So I wanted to tick that off my to-do list, you know, as it wasn't too far from my house. It was at the beginning of the trip. But unfortunately, when I got there, it was all on fire, as you see, and the helicopters were flying around.
Jeez.
So then I had a backup stretch, which I knew about. I went there and the helicopter was taking water from there. So it wasn't really going to be the one either. So soon I was on my way, and suddenly I'm out of the places that I know. Like, thought, I know these places. I've got information for these. These would be a good start for me. Like, I know there's definitely fish here. We can catch some fish quickly. You know, get the film rolling, get the adventure on the go, and it wasn't the case at all. So the known spots to me quickly evaporated, and I was pretty much straight away into the unknown. A lot of the trip, a lot of the venues, especially the gravel pit where I caught the big un, after the first venue I actually fished, I had seen before, hadn't fished that particular spot before. Luckily there was fish straight in the swim when I rolled into it, you know, and that was a good start. But after that section, it was all pretty much new to me, mate. So it was just kind of like hoping that I'd see fish. I don't know if you noticed through the film, I was constantly like, not looking where I'm going. I'm looking through the trees at the water, you know, looking for disturbance. Or if I come across a spot that I thought, this looks really nice, I'd stop, pop the drone up, or go have a walk, then pop the drone up. If I see some carp, then I get the drone up and try and see if there's big carp in there. Because that's the other thing, Hassan. You know, I don't want, on a trip like that, you know, think 3.5 weeks. But that time, I can promise you, absolutely disappears really, really fast. Like,
really?
Oh, yeah, mate, absolutely. When I got to the end of it, it felt like I'd only just started last week. You know, it was... and I didn't want to go home either. I really didn't want to go home at the end of that trip. I could have gone for another 6 months, mate, living like that. It was great.
Really? It's a bit of you, isn't it? Just completely out there, just like no people, all on your own.
Yeah. Great experience. But yeah, that's how I was literally finding the fish, you know, like just keeping an eye out. Oh, that looks interesting. Stop, get off my bike, have a quick wander. A lot of that obviously isn't in the film because, you know, you can't just have me wandering around aimlessly with a crash helmet on for 2 hours. It's not going to be interesting content. But a lot of the time, you know, a lot of my days were spent searching, you know, in those changing venue sequences, changing location. A lot of my time, a lot of them days, you know, you think, we left in the morning, now it's night, what's gone on? Like, but I couldn't really show that every time, me just wandering around in the woods or along riverbanks trying to find fish, you know. It becomes boring after a while, that repetitiveness, but that was a part of my strategy, mate. Just get in there, have a look, see if you can see some fish, get a drone up, see if you can find some big fish, get fishing. Right.
What's big? The river looked like it had your sort of typical sort of, I don't know, Spanish commons, a lot of smaller commons, which, mate, are still mega. But obviously within that, there are better fish. The sort of history of those fish and that river, mate.
So
well, what's the crack?
There's the original mirrors that are like indigenous to the river. So
Yeah.
you'll see the build of them going back to the one that I caught in the jet ski film at the beginning. That's a river. That's a genuine river genetics mirror for Spain.
Right.
For the Guadiana River, long, nice plates, dark colour. That's your typical OG, so to speak, Spanish Guadiana mirror. And then you've got the other mirrors which are a bit shorter and fatter, like the first one I caught, the big one I caught in part 1. That's an OG. That's an OG escapee actually. So there was a flood. There was like a club lake that's next to. It's not actually a lake. It's a dead arm where the river's changed course over the years, and there's a dead arm, and it's run by a local fishing club, and they stocked it with mirrors. And there was a big flood, and they all escaped to at £5, between £2 and £5, and over the last 30, 40 years, they've grown on into what they are now, which is those big sort of rounder, mostly linears or big plated, pink, high-shouldered, the old slopey head ones, like really cool.
Incredible fish, mate, isn't they?
Yeah, they're mega, mate. And that's the thing with the river. When we have the floods, we've had floods this year, twice actually this year now. When you have the floods, the fish get pushed through the sections. So every section of the river some of them are up to like 10 kilometres long. Some of them are as short as 400 metres or 300 metres. And at the end, there'd be like either a natural barrage of like rushes and where silt has built up at the end and it's become like a natural barrage blocking that section from the next lower section. Or it'd be like a load of rocks that the authorities have placed to build some sort of like resistance, because obviously the river's constantly flowing down. To maintain the ecology and the wildlife in the river, the tables have to be maintained. So they're sort of like they call them tables here in Spain. So like one level, then it drops down to the next level, and it goes like that, all the way down to the end. As we're quite high up here, our altitude's quite high. So they have these tables. They're all different lengths, and you never really know what's in them because, like I said, when the floods come, the fish get pushed through. So it's kind of like constantly restocking, repopulating. So it's all a bit of a guess, a bit of a surprise, which actually I really, really like in my fishing.
Yeah, it looked incredible. Not only the terrain, not only being out there, the sort of contrast between all that sort of dryness and like almost desert looked like scree, and then you get that beautiful lush river. But also, as you say, in terms of the fish, like when you're fishing in some of those sections, those of you that watch the video, like you genuinely have gone from one extreme to another in terms of captures, haven't you? Like it's not a case of being able to select them by doing something over here, whether that be baiting more, using a bigger hook bait, or doing whatever. You are fishing, and whatever rocks up, rocks up.
Pretty much, mate. The only thing you can try and do is make sure you're in the right area, and that's where obviously, I know people are going to hate this, the drone comes in. So once you've identified, yes, there's quite a few fish in this stretch, then we've seen them. We know there's a few there, big or small, whatever, and we get the drone up and try and find if there's bigger fish in there, if it's worthwhile angling in this stretch, and where they are, where the bigger fish are. And that's really all you can do to try and be selective with your captures. But if you see in the video, there's no real way of like going, right, I'm only going to catch big fish today. Another big limitation as well in your angling approach is the fact that you can't even fish tiger nuts. The crayfish eat the tiger nuts. I'll send you a clip at the end of this film, a photograph of a handful of rigs where either the hook's been cut off, the hair's been cut off, or all the tiger nuts have been eaten off, and sometimes even the plastic as well. I was having to like melt the bait floss into the plastic hook bait and cover over the end of it, otherwise the crayfish would just pick at the dob down end. I ended up pretty much almost using Ronnie claws all the way through with 35-pound boom section just for that indestructibility. And to try and resist the crayfish, because they're savage, mate. Like, you've never seen anything like it. And that's half the reason why the fish, the big ones, are as big as they are. If you look at any of the big ones I catch out the river system, you'll notice they all have a reddy pink tinge to them. It looks like I've pushed the saturation on the pictures, but I've not. That is the natural colour of them. That's because their diet mainly consists of crayfish, and that red pigment from the shells and the flesh is being absorbed into the fish's flesh. So that's the reason why they grow so big, because there's just literally an abundance of crayfish. One particular day we had a guy, a commercial crayfish pot. So you see these crayfish pots throughout the river and the lakes in Spain.
Okay, so they are harvesting them like commercially then, yeah?
Yeah, but they can never harvest enough. So a guy turns up, I was freaking out. It's like fucking 5 a.m. in the morning, lights. I thought, God, is it police? Someone coming to rob me? What is it? Yeah. I just see this guy getting all the crayfish stuff out. So I had a chat with him, putting his crayfish out the pots. They were brimmed to the top. You know, it was so brimmed, they were crawling out the holes. That's how full they were. And then he put like a load of minging, dead, rotten fish inside, emptied him to this big container he had in the back of his van, and he reset the crayfish pots. And one of them he happened to set virtually on my line, but I didn't say nothing to him. I waited for him to go. The sun got up, and I went and moved the crayfish pot. And when I lifted the crayfish pot, it'd been out for 2 hours. It was probably a third full already.
Jeez.
In 2 hours. In 2 hours, a third full. So I don't think there's any chance of them running out of food. And I think
are the crays relentless throughout the whole day, or are they more prone sort of in the evenings, or is it just all the time?
Rest. All the time.
Oh,
yeah.
mate.
Even in the winter, they're pretty active as well. Like, I've not been able to use a boilie, any of our boilies, because they're attractive and packed full of goodness, and the crayfish know that. So they cane all the scopic squid. They whittle them down, even the hard-ons, which is, I'd love to use like a good quality bait, but a shit bait would probably be all right because it probably lasts longer in the water. But yeah, the carp, you think, well, they got all these crayfish in the river and the gravel pits and lakes surrounding the river. Why would they even eat a bait? And there is actually an answer to that. It's because tiger nuts don't run away. You know, tiger nuts.
It's an easy meal, isn't it?
It's an easy meal, yeah. The carp are chasing the crayfish. They're uprooting stones and stuff. Like, you find these little patches where the carp have been feeding. You know, you can see all the silt's cleared away and all the rocks are turned over, like small stones where they've been digging out the crayfish out of their little holes that they hide in and that. So, but lucky for us, it's a great source of protein and saturated fats for the carp to enjoy and grow big on.
Mate, yeah, I'd be tempted just to mush them all up, mate, and put them on a spot and see what happens. But I reckon they just bring their mates in. Yeah, they just bring their mates in, exactly.
They're cannibals, mate. When you open the thing, they've all got ones with one arms where they've been eating each other and shit. And it's all
God, savage out there, boy, isn't it?
Absolutely, mate.
The actual fishing, obviously we saw you had a little blow-up boat that you took with you, so you were able to go and deploy some rigs, but there also was a fair bit of sort of casting with regards to all that. When you were fishing and sort of making the decisions, was it mainly based on range? Was it mainly based on sort of what you saw in front of you as to how you'd angle for them? Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just reading the water in front of me. It wasn't just range, you know, the river's not particularly wide as you see. You could cast to the other side, even with 6-foot rods and a stick on, you know, making sure you've got not too much of a bigger lead, making sure, because we've got to use really heavy leaders because of all the obstacles and rocks and snags, but making sure that leader knot is right at the base of that spool. So, like, you'd have your spool, you see, the leader knot's halfway up the spool, we'd have to paddle all the leader off, and then literally get the knot right at the base of it and then wind the leader back on. And that gave you probably like maybe an extra 7 or 8 meters on your cast.
Yeah.
Which was really advantageous. It was a big advantage. I struggled to
advantageous. Good effort, mate. Good effort.
I remember that's one of the words I struggle when I'm doing voiceover that I always delete. but yeah, so the main reason for going out on the boat was normally to survey, because the fish are quite easily spooked on this river because they're wild. A lot of these places aren't seeing much angling pressure, Hassan. So, you know, as soon as you get in the boat, they're all cleared off, which is something that I found out before fishing, you know, wild rivers. So wherever possible, I tried to cast. Unless there was a lot of timber and a lot of muck in the river, then I want to get out and use the deeper to either see what's under the surface or to physically look into the water and see what's under the surface, and then make my decision how I want to fish that stretch, whether I do want to fish the snags, fish locked up, you know, knowing that I've got the boat there, or lily pads as you see later on in one of in the second part, you know. just having that boat there was really, really handy, mate, you know. But most of the time, as you see, I was casting. So if I was within range, I was on fish, and it wasn't too treacherous, and the flow wasn't too heavy, because I only had light leads for casting, because you can't really cast a 6-ounce lead with a 6-foot rod. It's just not really a thing.
Unless you're dropping it a yard out on the edge, you'd be all right.
Yeah.
How did you find them, generally, the 6-footers, throughout the course of it? There's a lot of different fishing in there. We'll come on to the absolute ridiculous, well, there's loads of good captures, but 2 probably prominent ones. For you hadn't, I'm guessing you hadn't used them at all before, really? You used 10-footers, don't you, most of the time?
So back in the UK, I used to go on a bread bomb business on my lunch break down the Park Lakes. I don't know if you remember those stories in the early days of Nash.
Yeah.
I'd be literally sliding off, catching a few out the Park Lake, then heading back to work smelling of small commons or small rivers. But it was a little buzz, you know, how I was getting my fix in between trips. And that was my entire experience of using 6-foot rods. On this trip, as you know, it wasn't possible to take bigger rods, although I'm working on something for my next trip. But we'll talk about that a bit later. But yeah, so they were not obviously my first choice, but kind of like my only choice.
Yeah.
Anything up to 30 pounds, mate, top bus. I'd even say 35 pounds. Anything up to 35 pounds, no sweat. Like proper adrenaline, proper fun, just like it's proper, you know, you can feel every shake of the head, every movement, every run is just like savage and terrifying. So in fact, it made catching smaller carp extremely fun because your heart's in your mouth, mate. Like it's just tearing you up. You're having a proper scrap, mate. And that was one thing that I really struggled actually. And I spoke to Henry Lennon about this actually recently. Was to quantify the size of a carp on a 6-foot rod. So once they're sort of like over 15 pound, it's really difficult to tell how big the fish is, like, because they're just, everything's just so violent, the fight, you know, especially catching these wildies as well. They're not exactly just, we're just swimming now, you know, there's none of that. They're like, oh my God, what's going on?
Yeah, too right. Loads of flow as well, mate. You've got everything mixed in there, haven't you?
Yeah, they're fighting for their lives, mate. Literally, they have no idea what's going on. They've never felt this experience they're going through. And, yeah, they literally fight so hard. So yeah, up to 35 pounds, mate. They were absolutely sweet. Obviously, you see I caught some pretty decent carp. But by the skin of my teeth, literally, at times it felt like...
Yeah, just holding on.
Just holding on, man. Just literally holding on. Like, using the clutch a lot. So with those bigger ones, really using the clutch, because with, like, those real big ones, like, you know, you've got a 56 and a 62, you know, you're not... The compression of the rod is not really even registering at the carp's end. You know, it's... Them fish are so big. When they're just flapping them tails, the rod's fully compressed. It's at its limit. You know, it's not making any difference. It's almost like you're handlining them to a degree. So clutch control's so important. You've got to be able to let that fish, when it wants to go, you've got to let it go. Using this equipment, though, really puts you to a test as an angler, especially with the bigger fish, Hassan. You know, you've got to be on it. You've got to be aware of everything what's going on and be quick to react. And that was kind of the fun of it, you know, as well, throughout this trip. Being able to use this equipment that isn't best suited, not the ideal tool for the job, so to speak, and making it work. And that's kind of a buzz for me. It's like another challenge in itself, to be honest. You know, making this trip work with such limited resources to hand and not the right tool for the job, you know, it was like another challenge. And it comes back to what you were saying earlier on, mate, you know, about challenges and extremeness and where'd you go next? And making this trip work with not ideal equipment for the situation in itself was a huge buzz for me. And to be honest, I don't know if there's going to be captures that are going to have that same feeling for me, you know, against all the odds, you know, with limited capabilities and, you know, and just to see them fish finally hit the back of that spreader block, you know, it takes some beating, Mush.
Mate, it's a classic, innit? I hear it all the time. Like, the harder the journey, the sort of sweeter the buzz, the bigger the rewards. And you just added another element, as if the sort of physicality, which we'll come on to, isn't hard enough. everything else, the terrible food. You've also then, when it comes to it, fishing with gear that would work, but you've got that element of bigger fish whereby, mate, there's a lot of sort of variables and you're not tooled up as you would want to be maybe if it was in the first choice. So that's another element that adds to the buzz. I completely get that. The terrain, mate, when you're dropping rigs out there, the lake bed, how snaggy, how sort of... It's very hard to tell when you're looking at the camera because you see it at face value and you filmed it so well with like seeing fish and where they are. And that bit for me would probably be the bit where if you've got location right, you feel you might be in with a chance, even though you're putting bait on fish that might never have seen bait before. But the actual sort of nature of that fishing, how harsh is it? Is it like snag infested, you don't really know, full of boulders, rocky, or is it quite smooth along the course?
Well, we've fished a variety of venues, so we're all quite different, to be honest. Some stretches of the river were just like all cobbles on the bottom with a thin sliver of silt through the middle, and some trees in the edge or rushes. Then other ones were just like timber everywhere. And then other ones just had like jagged rocks at the edge. And the last venue was possibly the most savage underwater. That place there was so bad, mate. Like, I had to get into free a line at one point because it got under a rock. But the last venue was possibly the most difficult to land carp. I lost quite a few to hook pulls there. I had one of the takes, mate. It like nearly spooled me, mush. Like, there's nothing I could do. I got my finger on the spool. The clutch is reasonably tight, and it's just emptying, mate. And there was nothing I could do. I'm just sitting there like, I'm applying tension. If I apply any more, I felt like the hook was going to go. And to be honest, I was getting down to like possibly a bit more than half the spool.
No way, mate.
Fuck me, I've got like 300 metres of line out in the lake. I'm going to run out of line in a minute. So I thought, this is the point now. I need to apply the pressure. And like, I've started slowly slowing the fish down and ping off. And that happened to me. That particular case was an extreme. But I had that with like maybe having a fish strip 100 metres of line off the spool. Nothing.
That's unheard of, mate, isn't it? I've never had a fish take 100+ yards of line off me. Like, that's absolutely mad.
Just unrelenting, mate. Like, literally nothing I can do. Just stand there.
And you said that's the last place. So that was the place where you had churner after churner on that like end lake.
Incredible.
Well, that was ridiculous, mate.
I was so wanting to fish there for so long, mate. I come across that area when I first came to Spain and just see all the fish there. I just thought, wow, man, like, I've got to be able to find a way down to the water.
What is it? A big lake at the end of the river system?
Yeah,
is it?
I can't really talk too much about where it is.
Okay,
it's a bit of a secret one. That one.
I've just
some
blown
people
it.
may recognise it, but it's such a unique and unspoilt spot that I have to be kind of careful to a degree. There's kind of like that morality with filming and publishing films, and I get quite guilty in my own heart sometimes. But yeah, in that particular spot, I'd so wanted to fish it. There was no chance I was fishing a power, but you see that hill, mate. It's like that, wasn't it?
Savage, mate.
There's no chance I'm fishing all my gear up and down there, you know, getting all my bits through the hole in the fence, gap in the fence, and then piling it all down there and back up again. You know, I'm not exactly the most athletic guy, to be fair. But with the bike, it just made perfect sense, you know. And I was in two minds whether I wanted to fish that. I thought, yeah, well, if the big lake at the end of the rainbow, you know, the pot of gold. Because I really did think there was going to be some good ones in that Alcava, you know, the big lake. It was the theme of the whole film. The whole film was based around going to that lake.
Yeah.
You know, going to that venue, you know, and hopefully catching some real special carp, because you think all the genetics of the river would work their way down into that lake. I did actually see one good carp there, maybe a mid-30. But
mate, you caught loads of good. Well, I'm not good in terms of maybe size, if you're looking at that, but in terms of quality of fish, those commons you were catching were incredible, mate.
Yeah, in the last venue, so I'm talking about the penultimate venue. So throughout the whole film, I was talking about Alcava, the big lake at the end of the river.
Yeah.
Well, the last venue was actually not on the river; it was quite far away, and I was in two minds whether I wanted to come off at some point in the trip and go there, then return back to the river to follow it to the end. And then as the trip progressed, I thought, oh, no, I don't know if I've got time. And then when I got to the end lake, Alcava, which I dreamed. Mate, I just wanted to catch a 30-pounder from there, Hassan. That would have been enough for me. But the fact that I was only catching like 500-gram fish, 2 pound catfish. Like, I think the biggest carp I had was maybe like 2 pound. They were just like, they almost looked like crucians, apart from their carp mouths. So they were like that sort of like little humpbacky sort of crucian shape, but with an actual carp face.
Mad.
Yeah, so it was really odd. And there were just millions of them, mate. And when I mean millions of these tiny carp, there was millions of them, bro. Millions. And, you know, I planned to stay at that last venue for like a week. Well, not a week, but 5 nights. And soon, you know, after my second night, I knew it wasn't one. And I was so glad I saved that venue and I didn't go and fish it earlier on in the journey because of the detour from the river was so great. I was so glad I saved that for the end, mate. And for me, it was a perfect ending, Hassan. Yeah, for sure. Man. I would like to have landed a proper like mid 40 or 20 kilos, which is 44 pound, which is the European stamp. So our stamp in the UK is like 40 pounds, isn't it? In Europe, it's 20 kilos, which is 44 pounds. I would have loved to have caught a 44 pounder. The best one was a scraper 40. But the action was just relentless. And I think at one point I'm like, I love it. Constant churners. I love it. And honestly, I was feeling a little bit like Alan Blair, you know, absolutely loving the sound of that R4 constantly ripping off. And, mate, there were double runs, you know, like I got soaked and I was just getting changed and another one churned off and I'm playing the fishing in my pants, you know, like, I don't know if you clocked that.
I saw it, mate, the pants shot. You said it on the camera. But, mate, it weren't that. It was like after 3, I'd be happy at 3. But then having to film everything, process everything, and then while you're doing it on half of these lift shots, you can hear in the background one's absolutely blapping off. So you can't exactly rest on your laurels. You got to capture everything for film. You got to process all the fish, and then you got to crack on.
It was so hard, and I think the physicality of the trip was hard. Keeping that heavy bike upright, it was a bastard to lift up, mate. Honestly, a couple of times I had to unpack it to lift up because the gradient wasn't quite, or the gradient was against me, or the ground was like, every time I went to pick the bike up, it slid along the ground where the weight was had so much weight, you know. But the physicality was really difficult. But I think as equally as difficult was the filming, mate, and the photography. You know, trying to do self takes, get everything set up, you know. I didn't really spend a great duration of time at any particular spot. I was constantly on the move, you know, and just juggling, trying to find fish, capture the shots, make sure I get in the moment, getting a tripod set up, you know, not trying to make everything feel like it's orchestrated, trying to capture natural moments at the same time. You know, it was a big, big ask. And to be honest, I know a lot of people didn't think I'd be able to pull it off. I was punting this idea around for 18 months prior to the trip, mate. Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone was sick of hearing about it at Nash before I went. And I think, you know, no disrespect to anyone at Nash, but I kind of had the feeling that certain people just thought, you ain't going to be able to do this. Like, the jet ski film didn't work. Like, it did work. I caught big ones in the jet ski film. So it did work. But the jet skis didn't, you know, they wasn't really an aid to the trip.
To the fit. Yeah,
there was actually a hindrance to the trip, although very, very fun when it was working, you know. And I think a lot of people thought, you know, this was going to be a reenactment of that again, you know, and the failings from the jet ski film. But yeah, the motorbike film was difficult. It was hard, you know. It was hard to capture the moments. It was hard to capture everything and keep on top of the batteries. But it did work. It worked. It worked. I went fishing on a bike and I caught carp, and I caught good carp, and I caught them everywhere. And I didn't hurt myself. I didn't break a leg, and I didn't break my rods, and I didn't break my reels. Like, and I come home with one of the, I think it's almost certainly the most incredible angling experience of my life. Like,
yeah, mate. But also, like, regardless of doing it, there's having the mental sort of capacity to put yourself in that situation for that length of time. There's the relentless nature, as we talked about, of all this terrain, of all the travel, because it's hard work on that bike. You said there when you were coming off, getting up, picking things up, readjusting your chain at points to make sure that there weren't any sort of mechanics that were going to go wrong. There was so much in just actually doing it. But then, from my point of view, thinking about being there and filming it. If you had 2 or 3 videographers, they'd have been just as absolutely smashed physically as you.
I don't think they would have kept up.
You're doing that all on your own.
I don't think they would have kept up. Like, I would have loved a videographer, but at the end of the day, how are they going to manoeuvre the terrain that I'm manoeuvring? How are they going to get to the places I'm going? And, you know, having a film crew in tow is a hindrance for me.
Yeah,
personally. I'm so used to filming myself now, Hassan. When I've got a film crew in tow, I'm like, oh, come on, boys. Chop, chop. Like, you know.
Yeah, mate, it's not easy. You can't underestimate the value of that, of just doing that yourself, mate. It's an incredible effort. For me, there's 2 standout captures, right? And that is the 50-pounder and the 60-pounder, mate. Talk to me about those 2 fish, because they, on their own, absolute showstoppers, mate. Incredible carp.
Absolute flukes, mate. Let's just be real now. The absolute flukes, mate. Like, the first one, I dropped into that spot. I didn't want to fish it. There weren't no fish in the area. It looked crap. And the only reason I ended up staying in that spot, as you see, was because of all the litter that had been left, because it had been a bank holiday weekend.
Yeah, you picked it all up, didn't you?
Yeah, including human shit, which was not pleasant. You know, sometimes I feel ashamed to be an angler when I see all the litter and stuff. You know, but we've spoke about that before, so I won't go into that too deeply. But yeah, no, whether it's anglers or just people chilling by the river, I couldn't ride out of that swim without picking it up, mate. So I cracked on, got it done, you know. Like, I was finding somewhere to put all that rubbish on my motorbike, but you know, I couldn't leave it there. I had to go, and by the time I'd finished doing it all, it was just like, oh, I was exhausted, I was tired. It was a really hot day. I was sweating my tits off. I was feeling quite sapped at that moment. I was feeling disappointed. I was actually thinking, is this going to happen? Am I going to be able to make a film? I hadn't caught any fish for days. I'd only caught them at the first venue at that point. I hadn't caught any carp, Hassan. Just, you know, a couple of alright ones, you know, fun ones at the beginning. But I hadn't caught anything. Like, and in my mind, in the back of my mind, I'm constantly thinking, it's getting away from me now. This film's getting away from me. Like,
I'm losing. Yeah,
I can't continue like this for much longer. Otherwise, I'm doomed. You know, it's you know, all this investment, all this time, a year and a half in the actual physical planning of it. You know, the building of the bike, the going and collecting the bike in the snow. Like, it's all going to be for nothing. I've got all these thoughts in my head, and it was just, you know, I wasn't feeling depressed because I'm not really one of those people, but I was feeling sad. I was feeling sad that potentially all this effort and all this dream, instead of coming to fruition now, is not going to happen. It's falling away from me. But despite feeling like that, I still couldn't be selfish enough to leave that area without clearing that rubbish up. And by the time I finished, it was getting dark, and I just thought, you know what? Sod it. I'm hungry. I'm tired. I'm thirsty. I'm hot. I'm just going to get the rods out and get some rest, you know, and reevaluate the situation in the morning. And even though I thought, yeah, I'm just going to get the rods out, I still put 100% into finding spots. You know, I don't know if you see in the film, like, I found like a small crater and then I couldn't find it again. So I'm putting the time in, trying to make sure my rig is dropped right in that, because it was like silt, and then I could feel the silt had been cleared away maybe like 20 centimetres or something, and it was cobbles in the bottom. So I knew there was something there that they liked, that they'd been eating. So I still put the time in to get that spot just right, get the rod just fucking right, man. Even though I just wanted to just go to sleep. And then after all that effort, then I see the flow starting to pick up slowly as the sun was just going down. And I was thinking, oh, please don't. Please don't. Because I was fishing to the other side. Yeah. I was fishing to the other side. As the margin didn't seem that great in front of me. But I was actually in like a little cutback bit. So it was slightly recessed from the main flow of the river. Only by possibly like 7 or 8 metres. But it was like almost like a little tiny bay where that swim was. And then, like, as the flow started picking up in the evening, I started getting the beeps, and I knew the leads were slowly bouncing along the bottom. And then a God Almighty tree come down river and just took everything out. You know, and at that moment, mate, I was just thinking, no. And I had the ump, mate. I'm not going to lie. I think I might have mentioned it in the film. But I had the ump. I reeled them all in, and I actually leant them up against the hammock. And I sat in the hammock, and I rolled myself a cigarette, and I drank a tea. And I don't know, I just felt like, you know, you're a dick, Samir. Everyone was right. You know, like, it's just going to be another jet ski failure. Like, although we did catch a big carp in the jet ski film. It's, you know, it just felt like, it was all. I just thought, oh, you're a dick, mate. Like, you're just a dick. Like, what are you fucking doing? You should be at home doing something more productive. You're just wasting time. This is all useless. And then out of nowhere, this voice just appeared in my head. It's like, shut up, you melt. Get the fuck up, put some new rigs on them, and just get them in the water, because if they ain't in the water, you got no chance. And that was it, mate. I just picked myself out of it, just like that. Like, just out of nowhere, out of just feeling a bit of pity for myself. That voice just jumped into my head. It's like, you're a mug. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Who cares if you're tired? Get up now. Get them rods back in the water. And I got up, put all new rigs on, new sticks. I just casted them out. Couple of catapults, all at the same range, to be honest, Hassan.
Yeah, was that mid-river? Where was it?
No, so like I just said to you a minute ago, it was about 7 metres out of the main flow. So the main body of water where the water was flowing through, I was about 7 metres back. So I just literally put them on just inside the slack water. So, like generally where that low pressure in the water's there, the food should drop as the water speed slows down in there, the food should drop out of naturally and deposit on that sort of slower line of water there. So I just flicked them onto that slower line of water, a few catapults of bait, tucked myself back into bed and thought, right, you've done your best, that's it. You can't wake up in the morning and feel like you've been a loser or you've been lazy. You've done your best. And I laid down and I was just drifting off, and that was it. The rod went off, mate. The rod went off. Like, it wasn't a particularly fast run. It was a succession of beeps. And I picked up the rod, and as soon as I picked the rod up, Hassan, I knew, mate. Instantly, I knew straight away. It was almost like it was snagged up until I felt the kick. Like, I knew, mate. And the fight wasn't particularly intense, until it see the net. It was just like it was snagged up on a crayfish pot, or like a big sack of potatoes on. Like you've snagged yourself on something. You just slowly dragging something in, some inanimate object, heavy inanimate object. It was a bit like that. And then when it broke the surface, like, I'm not going to lie, my arsehole fell out, mate. Fuck me, look at that one.
What is that about?
Look at that. What a carp. And, another thing that's quite difficult, where you've got the short rods, it's actually quite difficult to be able to land the carp as well. You're all a bit like this, juggling your arms around, trying to stretch out, and, not let the line go slack. And, the fish went in the net and then suddenly woke up and swam out the net, and then it just kept drilling me. And
no
it was
way.
Going, I've got like 20 metres of leader on. The thing was like virtually in the net, mate, and it's just gone. And suddenly it's not a lethargic sack of potatoes. It's drilling me. It's unrelenting. The line's just paling off the spool. Like, it's just that constant single tone of clutch. It's not getting faster. It's not getting slower. It's just ticking off. And then I'm watching the line get lower and lower down to the leader knot. And, the leader knot's always a point of weakness, you're scared, like, when you see and you get close to the leader knot. And I watch the leader knot disappear off the spool through the roller of the bail arm and through every ring. And then I'm watching it literally just disappear into the blackness of the river. And I'm just like, oh, it's over. I'm just thinking, no, there's no way now, mate. There's no way, like, and it's just going and going. And, I've probably taken another 20 metres off after the leader, so probably 40 metres out into the river now. And we've got a flow on and there's trees coming down in my head. I just think, for fuck's sake. And then, and then he started to lose pace a bit. So I applied a little bit of pressure with my finger. Eventually it come to a stop. I've made a little bit of pressure. I thought, he's turned. He's coming towards me. I'm just coming towards me, and he's coming slowly. And I just slowly worked at it a little bit at a time. Just, keeping that pressure constant. And there was a couple more outbursts. And eventually, bam, he was in the net, mate.
What a carp, mate.
Oh, mate, it's unbelievable. It's like a 40-year-old carp, ancient, old as the hills. Looking down in that net, mate, from all the deepest despair and, losing that confidence that I'm, quite famous for having confidence,
Yeah.
Believing in myself and, like, just feeling like I've bitten off more than I could chew to feeling like a true king.
Mate, that is like from a river system, mate, a 50-pounder, like, incredible, like, wherever you are, mate, especially there, like, absolute. Do you think that those big uns reside in amongst all those little uns, or do you think they're quite solo? Do they?
It's an absolute mixed bag. So from what I've learnt so far from fishing the rivers in Spain, is that you have 5 or 6 big carp. So they may be 40 to 50 pounds. There is always one anomaly that's like between sort of 60 and 70 pounds. Like just one freak. But you've got like 5 or 6 at a push, and then the rest are all commons between sort of 5 and 30 pounds. That all look the same pretty much.
And those big ones are normally mirrors, yeah? Are there any
Normally,
massive commons, yeah?
A couple, not many, a couple of 40 pounders, a quarter 40 pounder on a trip with Claire at the end of this spring when she caught her PB at 62 pound out the river.
Yes, yeah, wow.
So big ones in the river, mate. But yeah, there's such a minority amongst the total stock of each section of river. You know, so they're quite tricky to catch. But yeah, to see that thing in my net, bruv, like, blew me away. My head exploded right there and then. I almost could have cried.
Yeah.
Not in a gay way or anything, but I could have almost cried, mate. The emotion was the relief.
Mate, that's it, because you said, like, and there is a lot of pressure on you. You said there, you come up with a ridiculous sort of rationale to go on a trip. You've got the pressure of having to make a video. At this point, you haven't had the fish. I don't know what you expected before you set off as a sort of a video maker, but you catch that, and that makes any video, mate. Yeah. It doesn't matter, on a bike or not. You could be on a unicycle, lad. You just smashed it.
Yeah,
ridiculous,
absolutely, mate. Your mum could have dropped you off. And it would have made the film, you know. But yeah, it was just, and it was just such an incredible carp. You know, what a survivor of the river. You know, look at the thing, the crispy scales are a little bit curly at the edge, the blackness of the shoulders and the crown, you know, the scars, the gnarly sort of brain-like sort of appearance of the skin, you know, and the mouth was in great condition. Yeah, he had a little break in his tail, but you find that quite often in the river, and that can often be from the otters, or from the snags during spawning as well, because there's so much trees and timber in the river. But yeah, he was a great character, you know. You can't buy fish like that from a fish farm. It's not possible, you know. It's a unique wild fish that has developed on its own in the wild. It looks like that because it's one of one. Not like, no disrespect to any of the fish farmers out there, but you know, hey, another scaly, hey, you know, another linear, and they're all, you know, they all look identical, don't they? Like this sort of appetite that's developed within the UK and across Europe in fish farming for a scaly one. Well, they're so common and scaly now, and they're almost like they've been, you know, printed. Like the scales are so uniform.
Yeah.
You know, you look at that thing. There's nothing about that that's uniform. There's nothing about that that's the same as the next one. It's a unique fish, and them captures for me are worth 100 of those other carp of the same size, mate. You know, 100 of those generic fish farm things. You know, the prisoners that are living in all the lakes across Europe, like they're not comparable. And for me, that's what it's all about. That right there. Fish like that. To be honest, that fish, even though it was smaller than the big one, aesthetically, it was my favourite one from the film.
Was it?
Absolutely, yeah. The history of it, the slopiness of the head. You know, I know that type of genetic is really unique to the river system, you know, and I know that fish is over 40 years old because I've caught the other ones that are from that same generation, them same old carp, you know, and one of them that I'd caught before, a guy had caught it at like 18 kilos in 92 or something, which is 40 pounds. So,
jeez.
You know, in 92 for a fish to be 40 pounds, you know that carp.
Yeah.
That carp's, you know, it's already probably got 10, 12 years already behind it at least. So, you know, for me, they're the ones, mate. They're the holy grail. They're the rare ones. They're the ones we want.
Mate, as if that weren't enough, talk to me about the bigger one, mate. Different setup, but like incredible. Like on one video to have that and that.
That one's definitely a fluke. So maybe that one's definitely lucky. So I've rocked up. You know, once again, we'd had a bit of a dry spell on the captures. Yes, I'd caught a few. You know, nothing big. Caught some nice mirrors. A lot of small commons. But I'd had 2 venues where I'd either only caught one tiny one, or I'd caught nothing. And once again, I was feeling like the film, you know, as a filmmaker, you can't just always just enjoy the ride. You know, don't get me wrong, I'm always enjoying myself. It's my job, it's my passion, it's why I do it. But you can't just enjoy the ride. You've got to be conscious of what kind of content you're going to produce at the end of this. is it going to be something that the viewers are going to relate to or be inspired by, and they're going to enjoy watching? You know, she's always conscious of that. I think, oh man, we've got a bit of a lull again in the film. And so as I was sort of planning my route, because you can't just ride straight down the river all the way. Sometimes you have to come away and come back because of the access and stuff, no roads or it might be private property. While I was planning my route, I spotted a cluster of gravel pits. I thought, you know, like, never heard of anyone really fishing gravel pits in Spain. Not really a thing that's not like in France or the UK. It's more rivers, big barrages. You know, that's the focus point of angling in Spain. I thought, just go check them out, you know. They're next to the river. Maybe the river might have flooded at some point. Some stock made its way in or whatever, you know. So I rocked up at this group of gravel pits. See the first one, didn't really see anything. You know, walking around the second one, and I see 2 fish. So one of them looked like 30 pounds. I thought, all right, well, I've seen two fish. You know, put the drone up, see another one. Thought, okay, one maybe a little bit bigger. Thought, okay, well, this might be a shout as a stocking filler. You know, like as a bridge, you know, we need to keep the audience engaged. We need to make sure it's not just a film about blanking, although some films I've put out about blanking with one capture have done incredibly well on Typography on KWO, but that's not the kind of film I like to make for Nash. And I thought, right, it'd be a stocking filler, mate. I'll just drop in here for a night, see if I can nick one, and then move on in the morning. Yeah, so I stopped in, like, nice spot, got the boat inflated, don't know what's in the gravel pit, don't know if there's machinery left in there or, you know, or big slabs of concrete or plinths where they've had some of the equipment, you know, where they've mounted equipment in the past. You get a lot of that in gravel pits, more so in Spain, I think. And often they're completely covered in mussels as well, which are absolute death traps for even 0.7 mil leader. It's just not, you know, they're just a major obstacle. So I went out there, found some likely looking spots, deployed my rods, and tucked into bed, feeling reasonably confident. I woke up in the morning, no fish, bit disappointed. Okay, it's first light, still not really a problem. Still got 2-3 hours of possibility of a bite. And then I just had a couple of beeps, mate. I think the first one was a single beep. You know, me is pricked. You know, I sat up. Nothing, just laid back, smoked a cigarette, drank a coffee. Then I just had two drop back beeps. So I come over and the hanger's quite a way down. Picked it up, reeling the lines, completely slack. Just reeling, watching my line go across the surface all the way to the left hand.
No way.
It's gone from over here to here. Like, sort of almost
on a kite, yeah.
Yeah, and it must have just had just enough resistance to only let the hanger drop back like that much, like, so it must have kited and there must have been just enough resistance so it wasn't a full drop back, but, you know, a couple of beeper, and I just connected with something and just felt snagged up, and you know, I didn't even think it was a fish, to be honest. I didn't even think it was a carp, mate. I was just, fucking crayfish pot again, you know, I'm pulling, not moving, line's going through the rushes now as well, so I haven't got a good sensation. I thought, nah mate, this is just snagged up. I give it a little bit more, like a bit more than I would normally give a carp, like a bit more pressure, and I felt it. I was like, oh, it is a fish. Fucking hell. And at this point, I'd actually thought it'd swam through a crayfish pot, so I've got a small carp and a crayfish pot.
Right.
The evolution of my thinking's gone from, no, it's a load of shit, what's going on, to, oh, like, it's a small carp. And then suddenly, it just started moving, and it come through the rushes and broke the surface, like, fuck me. Jesus, this is fucking bigger than the last one that I just caught, you know, on the river, like, the big one on the river. Oh, it's another giant, man. Like, fucking, so I've got it. And by this point, I'm not going to lie, I'd actually become a little bit panicky because I'd given it that bit of extra pressure, Hassan, and an unusual amount of pressure if I knew that there was a fish on. And I was feeling uncomfortable now about the hook hole and the fact the line was going through the rushes. And I was just like, getting a bit panicky. So I got my net out there, and I tried to slide the net underneath it, and there must have been a root because I was fishing in between the rushes. If you see, there was rushes there. And there must have been a root or something. So I've got the rod, and I couldn't lift the net up. I couldn't lift it up.
Oh.
So fuck, what's going on? So I just quickly let go of the rod. Tried to lift the net up. It wouldn't lift. It's like the handle's bending like that. And then the carps just swum out the net. And I'm like,
you've had some netting nightmares.
I'm a shit at netting carp, Hassan, honestly. You know, let's be real. I'm terrible, mate. Oh man, it's the little rods don't help, mate. The little rods don't help. But I've got both hands trying to lift it up, and obviously it's caught over a root or something on the bottom, and the carp's just sort of righted itself and waddled out the net, and the rod's on the floor, mate. Oh no! Fucking picked up the rod. You know, I've got the pressure on again. This time I've got the net fully extended. I'm conscious not to let it sink to the bottom again. Like, I'm trying to slide the net just underneath the carp, and as soon as that cord went up over its tail, I was like, oh my God, what is this thing? And the genetics of this carp was actually very, very different to the one I caught in the river. Like, completely different. If we have a flashback to Henry Lennon's Big 'Un, Catching Spain's Biggest Carp, the film with me and Henry Lennon.
Yeah.
His Big 'Un, quite a plain one with a real boxy frame. You know, what was it, 35 kilos, that monster, wasn't it? The big one, not the linear.
Yeah.
If you look at the frame of that carp, it didn't look fat, did it? It looked like it had loads of miles to grow,
Yeah.
It was like, if you put the two fish side by side, the frame is almost identical. So wherever that carp's genetics come from, this gravel pit had the same genetics. You know, we're in a virgin carp or a developing carp scene here in Spain. So it's probably much like the UK carp scene when it was developing and the French carp scene when it was developing. People move fish around, didn't they, in the early days?
Of course.
And there's probably a chance that fish has been moved from a lake because the genetics are different to the river. And what a carp, mate. What a carp. Thick set. You know, it was difficult to see actually how big it was on camera until I flipped it on its side because the carp was really wide at the top. And when you looked at the fish, it didn't have a big gut buster or nothing like that. It looked quite boxy. But when you looked at the fish from above, it kind of went like this, Hassan, like a triangle. And the wide was probably a couple of inches, the bottom was probably a couple of inches wider than the shoulders, which is really the shoulders normally carry.
Normally the weight, yeah.
Yeah, but no, the fish kind of went like this, mate. And it just had such a wide bottom. And, you know, it was immaculate. It was a pristine fish. The mouth was not a mark on the mouth, mate. And lucky for me, the hook was buried deep. You know, so it was just a pinprick in its mouth, which was great.
Mate, as if you've just rocked up on your bike to some gravel pit for the night and just that thing's happened. Do you know what I mean?
It was unbelievable.
I don't know what you do with that. I just wind everything in. I get back on the
Get
bike,
the rod straight
mate.
back out, Hassan. There might be another one there, Mooch.
That's where we're different, mate. You are a different level, bruv. I'd be done, mate. I'd be in that pub living the dream, mate.
As soon as I'd hung it up, because I had to know right there and then, because it was so big, like, and I knew it was bigger than the other one. I had to know right there and then, mate. I needed to know how big it was. It was spinning me out. Like, I was thinking, fuck me, is it 30 kilos at one point? I thought when I was lifting it up, I thought, fuck me, this is really big. But yeah, 28.2 kilos, 28.2, mate. And as soon as I hung it up in the sack, rod back out on the spot, because the chances of that being the only carp that size in that gravel pit, come on, man, like.
Yeah, man, you're a different level, mate.
Anomaly.
You're a different level, mate. The actual sort of. The hard parts, let's go for. We talked about falling off the bike. We've talked about these incredible moments with these two carp, but there was loads of incredible moments. For you, when I contextualise or look at the video and have watched it, the hard parts look like the constant falls, having to reset, the filming element, thinking of it from my perspective if I was you, the food, and then just the general sort of getting about and terrain and making do. What were the hardest parts for you, mate?
I think it was riding the bike loaded. The filming, I'd say, that the filming and the food. You know, they're a combination of burdens, you know, from the trip or stresses in the trip. And
how many times you fall off, mate?
Probably about 15.
What's the worst fall?
The worst one. None of them were that bad, mate, to be honest. None. So when we say fell off, it's literally I fell off. I didn't crash. None of them crashes. Where you've got all that weight. So when you're going along at speed, you've got centrifugal force in the wheels, keep you upright. There's a name for it. I think it's centrifugal force. So the wheels spinning round, they're like a gyroscope, so they keep you upright. Yeah. But when you slow down, that force is less. So as that force decreases as you're getting slower, and then when you're trying to manoeuvre over rocky terrain, you know, it's not a path. You're going out, there might be a small rock here, and you hit one of those at low speed, and it puts you off balance. And unless you're standing up and quick to react, it's over, mate. I think the most stressful one was actually before I caught before I caught that 62-pounder. It was really hot that day. It was a lull in the angling prior to that capture. I'd been searching. I'd ridden a lot that day. I think I'd ridden 7 or 8 hours that day, all off-road. And your shoulders and your back are aching where you're constantly fighting with the bike to keep it balanced and upright. And you're using your hips and you're using your legs, and, to try and counter all that weight. And I think it was like 35 degrees that day. I was absolutely wringing wet through under my body armour, and when I rode past the camera and I stopped, because there's a lot of setting a tripod up, riding past the camera, going back for the camera, packing the camera away, and then actually going off to do what you need to do. And I pulled up to get the camera, and my shoelace got caught around my foot peg. So it was actually, I've got like spiky, grippy foot pegs. Yeah. And my shoelace was hooked around one of the spikes, and I couldn't get my foot down. And I felt the bike starting to go, and I'm sort of trying to shift my weight across, but it wasn't enough. I needed to just put my foot down to stop the bike from going over, and I couldn't, and I fell over, and the bike kind of landed on my leg a little bit. Ooh. And I was angry. I was really angry. I'd had enough then. I was thinking, what? I'm cooking. This day is hard. I've looked at so many pieces of water. I've not felt it. I've not seen fish. Because it's quite the opposite in Spain to the UK. So in the summer, the fish go deep to get away from the heat, because the deep,
too much.
Yeah, that's it. The lower levels, the lower meters of water, it's a lot cooler. If you ever dive, you'll know once you get out of the first meter of water, the temperature drops quite rapidly. So it was finding difficult to find the carp. They're not feeding, so there's no bubblers. I've looked at lots of water. I'm sweating my tits off. And now I've just dropped my bike fully loaded, and I tried to pick it up, and I just didn't have the energy to pick it up. I did, and I was angry. I kicked the bike, and I was swearing, and there's a lot of terrible swear words that were cut out completely, because I ain't gonna lie, I lost my shit, Hassan, mate.
Yeah, of course.
I'd lost my shit, mate. I'd lost my shit. But at the same time, like, one thing Claire says she says you're just schizophrenic or bipolar, but I'm not, mate. I can lose my shit quite quickly. I can get angry, but as fast as I go up, I can come straight back down. And I recompose myself and crack on, mate. I do it all the time.
That's a skill, mate. That is, massively.
Well, it'd be more skillful if I just didn't lose my shit. That would be skillful.
I don't know. I think the skill's coming back, innit? That's impressive.
Yeah, I'm very good at coming back quickly as well. And Claire's just Claire will carry the hump around for a day, 2, a week, a month if it's really bad. Although it's a very rare occasion. There's only been a couple of occasions in my life there's been like that, and I won't go into those. But Claire can carry the hump or as most women can carry the hump for quite a long time. As where me, I'll just get it out, and that's it. Then okay, I've had my skank out now. What do I need to do? I can't pick the bike up. It's sliding on the gravel. Let's get all the kit off it. Get the bike up in the air. Even the most frustrating thing was I only had to ride like 150 metres to the spot. But I didn't want to carry all the kit on my back either. So I unpacked the bike, stood the bike up, loaded it all back on again.
Aggro, mate. You love it, mate. Nothing easy. The sort of... Any sketchy moments? I didn't see you bump into too many people. It looked quite remote. But was there anything dodgy?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, there was a guy who liked to touch himself near me.
Oh,
which I had to tell to go, which is a bit weird.
You attract this sort of person, though, mate, don't you, mate? You're a magnet for it.
That's what Claire says. I don't know what she's talking about, mate. So I'm fishing, yeah. So I'm filming. I'm doing a piece to camera. And this guy is on a pedal bike. He must be in his mid-60s, like, real old guy, like, just stops up, standing there watching me. I'm just talking, anyway, I stop filming, I'm like, hola. I start speaking to me in Spanish. I'm like, lo siento, no hablo español, hablo inglés. Do you speak? I don't speak Spanish. Do you speak English? No. And you think of that, sorry, ciao. And I start
see you later. On. Yeah.
No, like half an hour he's standing in my swim just watching everything I do.
Oh.
So it's a fucking bit weird, man. Like, and then I had to go to near where he was, where the bike was, to get some stuff out of a bag. Yeah, so I'm out of a bag. Out the corner of my eye, I just spot something that felt weird. I looked up and basically had his hand in his pocket. Yeah, like, and And I thought he was rubbing his dick in his through his hand in his pocket. I looked up and he stopped, and I thought, no, he's an old man. What are you on about, Samir? I carried on, and I spotted it again out the corner of my eye, and he definitely was. And I was just like, okay, so I fucking got in the boat. Yeah, I didn't need to do my rods. I thought I'll just go out in the boat. And I went out in the boat, and he just fucked off. He was gone. The next day, I was packing up, filming my packing up sequence. He turns up again, starts trying to talk to me. I have no clue what he's saying. I'm packing my bike. He's got his hand in his pocket. This time I've blatantly caught him rubbing his dick. I'm just like, no.
What did he do?
Nothing. Just jumped. I was like, I quickly got on my bike, pulled the last ratchet strap tight, got on my bike, rode off, didn't get the leaving sequence, which really annoyed me. And I left hanging in my tree my water filter, which was a really essential piece of equipment. Like, because I don't know if you see on the back of the bike, I just had a little 2-litre container that I fill up like a running bottle or mountain bike bottle container, 1.5-litre container that I filled up, and I just kept filling it up. So I had that and like a camel pack for when I'm riding. So they were full, but I didn't realise till I got to the next venue, which was really, really, really stressful. I'd got set up, got the rods out, and realised I've only got, and it's blistering hot, 35 degrees. So I've just got a litre and a half of water left. So I left there, rode back to find it. So I fished the night there, didn't happen. Rode back to find it, couldn't find it. So then I had to order one off of Amazon. I managed to get a next day delivery to an Amazon Dropbox. And then in between, in the next venue, I just went quickly to the Amazon Dropbox, got the water filter, and then cracked back on. But there was that. That was a drama that was brought on by some strange guy. There was a lot of survival stuff really that didn't make it into the edit. So like trying to string a hammock up where the trees are too light, like that was quite a stress at times. Trying to find a way to string a hammock up without suitable trees. I didn't end up putting that in. A lot of the survival stuff didn't make it into the end edit, as I felt like there was a lot of footage, and a lot of the story was not about fishing already. We kept coming away from the angling back, and then back to the angling again. And I didn't want to. You still have to be mindful that it is a fishing film. If I put that on my own channel, I would have put it all in and made it like a 4-parter or something like that.
Yeah.
But I have to. We've got sort of constraints that we need to work within. To produce content that's relatable or acceptable or digestible, I think is the word actually, to the carp angling community. But yeah, the survival stuff was tough. It was all just tough. The best bit was the catching, and waking up in crazy places, like waking up in Alcava, the big dam, the place, the hot air balloons, and
that was a wicked drone shot. That was, wasn't it?
The colours in the sky, the savageness of the landscape, the vastness of the water, all the old abandoned buildings, and all that kind of like ruins that littered the river and littered the barrage. Them moments for me when I'm totally and completely alone were the ones that really, really, really made it special for me. Really made it special.
When you look back at it, mate, as a total, the sort of the journey, the fishing, all in, when you had a vision of it in your head, did it go to that same vision? And are you satisfied with the end result? You've referenced there the Orellana video on jet skis, mate. Regardless of what you say, that was an incredible video and you had an incredible result. This one, for you, it was a personal mission more than that. What's the overall takeaway that you have from it?
I exceeded my wildest expectations, Hassan. How couldn't it in reality, 62-pounder, I think the other one was 56. And I managed to do it on a motorbike with limited gear. For me, when I set out, I thought, right, if I can catch some 30s and possibly a 40, this would be a great piece of entertainment and a really fun trip to do. And despite it being way more difficult, despite it being a proper ball ache, the adventure levels were off the chart, mate. It was the greatest angling experience of my life, mate, so far to date. And I've had some good trips as well in my life, Mush.
Just a few, boy.
And just the whole thing, like at the end, I say, did the bike make it easier? At times, no, definitely not. At times, yes, because there was a few spots I definitely could have got to without the motorbike, like the jungle spot with a little gravel pit in the jungle. The last spot at the very end, a spot on Alcava, although it didn't produce the results I was hoping for. It's funny how the bits that you think are going to be the best bits actually turn out not to be the best bits. But at the same time, all the different components that made up this trip just made it for me like, look, I'm smiling now, mate.
Yeah,
it made it the most enjoyable angling experience of my life, mate. And one hell of an adventure. That's
the word, isn't it? Experience and adventure are the two things when I watch that video that really click in. Like, no, but there's a lot of people making incredible content and incredible videos, Absolutely. But that's a different sort of element with regards to putting carp fishing and adventure and exploration, all the things that you want from your carp fishing, if you like, to a different level. Well, you know what I'm going to ask you is what you're going to do next, mate. You've done that. The high's done. You've smashed that off the list. What are you doing now? Sold the bike?
No, absolutely not sold the bike. I love the bike. Me and the bike are proper buddies now, man. I ride it all the time.
Do you?
I go to the shop, or if I'm feeling a little bit stressed out and I just need to clear my mind, I get on the bike and go maybe rip it for 2-3 hours off road, you know, round. Because obviously I live in the middle of nowhere. I've got great, you know, off road in, you know, places where I can go off road on my bike. You know, the terrain here is just perfect for that kind of bike. And the thing I find when I'm on the bike is because you've got to concentrate on not dying so much, not thinking about everything else, all the other pressures in my life, you know, getting videos done on time, making sure I'm posting regular and engaging content, making sure my following's constantly growing, making sure I'm replying to messages, replying to comments, you know, all this stuff, you know, you just think, it's just social media, but it takes a lot of thought. I can promise you that nothing gets posted on my social media without thought, you know, and thinking how I'm going to compose that, you know, even the text or what pictures I'm going to use in the carousel, you know, what kind of story I'm going to post, all of that, all the pressures of the time scales, the planning of the next trips, you know, hoping they're going to go right, all that disappears. All of it disappears when I'm on a bike, and it's just me, the bike, and we're going through this terrain. I'm going to get out the other side, I'm going to get home, I'm going to have my dinner, and everything's going to be great. And that, for me, is like, I don't know, it's like a form of meditation, riding the bike.
Yeah.
You know, and it releases me from them stresses of life, because the focus of not crashing and not coming off on ridiculous terrain is so much so that there's no space in your head for anything else. Otherwise, you will crash and fall off. So, for me, where does it go next? Well, I've got an idea. I've got a few ideas. One's definitely happening next spring, and that's riding across Italy on the bike. But this time we're going to have a couple of different elements tied into it. So, because obviously I'm quite far away from home.
Yeah.
I'm going to meet up with a few of the English-speaking Nash consultants from Italy along the way.
Cool.
Similar kind of concept. I've got a whole list of venues that I've wanted to fish, wild places. So we're going to visit them, fish whatever in between. So I've got like 5 or 6 pins that I really want to fish from the bike. And what I'm going to do is just fish any bits of blue in between, mate, you know, and hook up with a few guys, 3 or 4 guys along the journey, you know, help bring a slightly different dynamic to it. Obviously, I've got quite a bit of work to do to my bike, more modifications. You know, that I've gone and been and done this trip. I've learned what works, what doesn't work, where I need to improve. So I've got to modify the side boxes so they come out a little bit wider, so that I can get 9-foot rods in an RT.
Okay.
In an RT pack. I think they're called, is it RT pack, is it? You know, the thing, Transformer, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because the Transformer was actually the thing that made this possible, this whole trip possible. Without that piece of equipment, you know, the transporter or transformer, whatever they call it, with all the rods in, my tackle box, a bit of bait, all the bits I need. Essentially, all the fishing stuff went into that one bag. And that enabled this trip to actually happen. Like, without that piece of equipment, without that piece of clever development by Alan and the guys in product development, this trip would never have happened. And now I'm looking, like I said to you, when I was in the venue where I caught the 62, afterwards you see I lost a number of fish on the bounce.
Yep.
which kind of, that's why I said to you that it was a bit lucky, that capture, because if it had just swum into the rushes and into the snags like all the other fish done, I never would have landed.
Gone, yeah, exactly.
So who knows what fish I lost? Who knows? And, you know, I could have stayed there and maybe tried to have brought the rods a little bit further back, or, you know, and tried to tune in my approach to be able to land the fish on the gear I had. But I just felt like I'm losing fish here. And every loss for me is a massive burn, mate.
Yeah, of course.
It hurts, mate. And I'd lost 3 on the bounce. And for me, that was enough. I thought, no, you know what? We've got to be responsible. We're just going to go from here. So I just think by widening, having the boxes slightly set wider, because the thing is, I could just put the 9-foot rods on top. Problem is, if I fall over and the bite and the fall doesn't hit the boxes first, I snap the rod tips. The trip's done, mate. There's not really much I can do, and I've got a month, 4 weeks set aside for this Italian trip. And if something catastrophic like that was to happen, then I'm done, and all the investment, all the planning's all for nothing. So we've got that modification. Also, I need to upgrade the forks. I need to upgrade the rear suspension. So if any companies out there that do suspension, or someone who works there, sort me out a great price. Hit me up for a DM, because that stuff's really expensive. So I need to do that. I need to widen the boxes. Also, I'm going to change some of the head fairing at the front, so it's a little bit better for what I'm doing.
Mate, it's a good job you're mechanically minded, boy, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
That, for me, that was a bit of the buzz, you know, picking the bike up in the UK in the snow. You know, that was scary.
That looks scary, mate. When you've not ridden one for a while and you go back through all that, mate.
I'd never been that. That was the coldest I'd ever been in my life. I'd never been as cold as I was on the way home as I was in that trip, mate. And it was terrifying. It was terrifying, mate.
Yeah, mate, no.
And 2 wheels on a bike. You know, I hadn't ridden it for years. Coming through the snow and the mountains. But I had no choice, mate. It had to be then. I had no other gaps in my schedule where I could go and have a couple of days to go do this. I'd done it in 2 days, you know, so it was pretty...
Mad, mate. Just generally, just an absolutely mental trip. Like, it comes across on the video, but obviously the full depth of it, you know more personally than everybody else. You talked about your schedule there, mate. There's a few things that you've got in the pipeline, not relating to crazy bike trips in Italy or whatever else you're going to cook up,
Absolutely.
but that have changed or are changing in the future for you, mate. What's going on?
That's right, mate. So at the moment, we're currently, Jamal has his incredibly skilled...
tech support.
Yeah, absolutely. He's building us a new website for the Carp Lifer brand, where we're going to have lots of different bits of limited merch dropping throughout the year, with some really cool designs, working with some people back in the UK, and some people also out here. We've got sunglasses coming, like really cool ones that float as well, which is really important if you drop them in the
That's
water.
a touch, yeah.
Yeah, I'm terrible for breaking sunglasses. We've got guiding again coming back, but
have you?
A few different levels, yeah. So we're going all out for the guiding. Like the website's going to be proper, so there'll be like certain packages. You can select the different level of package you want, from drive and survive, equipment hire, and transport. So moving you around the lake. And all the equipment hire, so you can just fly in, hire all the equipment,
nice.
And then I'll give you like verbal guiding on hand on the phone if in daytime hours, if you need any advice or anything, or if you've caught a big and you want some proper good photos, give me a ring. I'm going to come out. If you need to move, your battery's charged. Claire's going to be doing food packages, and then we're going to be doing like the top tier, which is going to be like 1-to-1 guiding. So that's where that one's not particularly cheap. I think like the equipment hire and verbal guiding and the transport is probably going to be the most popular one. But if you really want to learn how to master your boat, how to master your echo sounder, how to fish safely and effectively in these savage and wild environments, what rigs to use, what leaders, what approach, what to look for, like the whole shebang. Like I used to do them before, and everybody come away from them trips, come home with, most of the time, I think nearly everyone except for one person came home with PBs, you know, and a whole wealth of knowledge, you know, and things that weren't obvious to them, you know, for this kind of fishing. So that's going to be our top tier level, which obviously, you know, my time's quite valuable. They're a minimum of 8 days. I'm not going to say the price here. It'll all be up on the website with a fully automated booking system, so you can select what kind of trip you want where you want to go, what extras you want bolted onto the trip, and then we have like a calendar for my availability, so you can pick the weeks, and then it's all automated. You pay like a 50% non-refundable deposit through the secure payment system, and then the rest on arrival. So like, it's going to be exciting time.
Mate, that sounds epic. You are busy as busy can be, boy. When's that going to launch, mate? When are you looking to start it all?
We're probably looking at launching a website in the spring next year with some merch and a monthly blog as well. So I'm going to write a monthly blog for the website saying not just about fishing, just what's going on in our crazy house out here with the donkeys and the dog and our land and our off-grid living and our fishing. So we're going to have like a monthly update on what's going on. We're also talking with the idea of like a small free to join community, a forum where I'm going to put all my frequently asked questions. And then if you have any additional questions, you can post in the forum, something that I'll check regularly, you know, to keep updated. So if guys have any questions about what we're doing here, you know, we can answer them in the forum. So yeah, we've got really a lot sort of going on, you know. When I first left my job in the UK, it was kind of like, yeah, just fuck it, we're going. Like,
yeah. It'll be all right. Yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll just jump in. Like, yeah, let's just go and explore Europe, you know. But now that we're settled and we're like, you know, that was the beginning of 2020 when we left.
Jeez.
You know, we sold our business in 2019, so it's like 4 years since I packed up my work and into this life. And now now we're settled and we know what direction we're going in. We need to try and bring everything together, you know, so that we have a proper business, you know, and we can entertain people and generate an income at the same time. And yeah, just live our best life, mate. And, you know, and hopefully inspire other people and help other people who maybe want to do the same with off-grid living. Like, you know, me and Jamal and Claire, we've developed a whole wealth of knowledge over the last few years, you know, things we never expected to encounter, things we never knew we needed to do, you know. So offer that kind of advice to people, you know, for people who do want to escape the matrix, who people are sick and tired of their 9 to 5 and their job, if their job makes them miserable, or their life, people who are in a position where they have enough finances, and you'll be surprised how little money you need to actually do it if you own a home in the UK and you can sell it, you know, and hopefully help those people fulfill their dreams as well. Because at the moment, although it's not always plain sailing and we do have difficulties all the time, it's those difficulties that make you appreciate how good the good times are. And despite the troubles and the stresses we've had over the years since we left the UK, I wouldn't change a single part of it, Hassan, because it's all been a part of the journey that's brought us to this point here and to the person we are sat in front of you now. So as people, we grow.
You said it before. You said the word inspirational, mate. The whole thing is not only this video that you've put together on your bike, which is next level, but the actual thought and the ability to go and create and live your dream, sell up what you had, which is a very successful business, a really nice life in the UK, to go and chase a dream and make it happen. It all is a massive inspiration. And I think what you're going to do with regards to the guiding and everything coming from it is only going to make people see that further and tangibly go and experience it themselves, mate. It should be wicked.
Absolutely. And although I live next to Orellana, I actually spend very, very little time on the lake. And it's something that upsets me a little bit, if I'm honest, because I've made a few films here now. Obviously, I don't want to keep making films on the same venue for the rest of my life. It's not interesting for the viewer, you know. And, you know, so I've sort of shied away from fishing Orellana and spending time on the lake, with the exception of sort of going to the harbour for a meal or going out on the jet ski for a bit of fun. And I feel like I need to connect more with the environment that I'm living in, as I didn't buy a house next to the lake for no reason. So by doing the guiding and that, I get to spend more time out in this beautiful environment where I live, this beautiful and unique environment, and at the same time earn a meagre wage and hopefully get people to enjoy and learn in this beautiful place that I call home.
Oh, mate, more power to you. You're an absolute lad. Thank you for coming on, sharing your experiences, talking about your mega trip on the old podcast. I look forward to the next one, mate. And I definitely need to try and get out to do some fishing at some point when the old diary will allow, mate. Been far too long.
My home is your home. You're always welcome, my friend.
Big love. Thank you guys for watching and listening. I'll be back soon with another podcast. Until then, Samir, thank you so much, mate. You're a legend.
Big ups, my friend.